photographer, welcome to our channel where we give you business advice and all the tangible tips. Today we are talking about shooting. Specifically, we're talking about photographing the wedding rings. So I'm going to take you on location and I'm going to show you me photographing a little trio of wedding rings, both an engagement ring and then 2 wedding bands. But I'm also going to give you 5 tips for photographing rings. This can be something that's so tricky for photographers. You just can't quite get it right. And it feels like it should be really simple, right? It's inanimate objects. Meanwhile, you're photographing huge groups and like family formals and all these things, but wedding rings can be tricky for a few reasons. So I'm going to break down some important tips to make sure that you can nail it. Let's do this thing. Tip number 1, you want to make sure that you are photographing the prongs, not the stone. So in a ring like this, there's going to be prongs that wrap around the stone, and those prongs are going to be slightly closer to the camera than the stone. Now, this seems really backwards. Why would I photograph these tiny prongs when I could literally photograph something that is the expensive part of the ring, the stone? But the problem with that is when you photograph the stone, the prongs are going to be slightly out of focus because, again, they are slightly closer to your lens. It almost makes it feel like the entire thing is out of focus. Versus when you focus on the prongs, it allows just the stone to be slightly behind there and to pick up a little bit of the focus. It allows the entire thing to look a lot more in focus cohesively as one piece. So that feels really backwards, but the second you start focusing on the prongs, you're gonna find that you love your ring shots a lot more because it feels like the entire ring is a lot more in focus. Number 2, also related to focus, pay attention to planes when figuring out what you want in focus. So it feels really easy to get a ring shot set up and then you want to get really creative with it and you're playing around and you're kind of going from this way and this way and this way. The problem with that is that you might get a prong that's in the right corner in focus, but you're also picking up the groom's band that's on the bottom. You're just picking up a little of that and it's a weird angle of that. It's a weird piece of that. You're getting a weird texture that's maybe not the main texture that you really want to highlight. So pay attention to your planes, make sure that you're hitting a stone flat in most cases so that you can get as much of it in focus as possible and so that you can really highlight like the size of it or the sparkle to it, the cut of it. Make sure that you're also not picking up things that might be unflattering, that might not be the focus of the ring, again in maybe those wedding bands. You'll often see a lot of women's wedding bands that have stones around the front half but not the back half, and you might position a setup with your trio of rings where then you're getting creative and you're like, oh, I'm shooting from this angle, but you're only picking up maybe 2 of the front stones on their wedding band, and then you're just getting the rest of the band in the back, which isn't anything that's super flattering of the ring. You're not getting a ton of the sparkle, a ton of what they might want to showcase. So just pay attention to that when you start getting creative and you start moving around the trio of bands. Number 3, what I think really makes ring shots pop is paying attention to both the really far close to the lens foreground and the background. I think a lot of people are really great at filling in a background when they make a ring shot. They're like, okay, I'm gonna fill it in with all these flowers, or I have this beautiful invitation suite and then I'm gonna use a little bit of like the monogram that's on the invitation suite. That's easy, people nail that. But paying attention to the foreground is really what I think takes ring shots to the next level. So in that case, I'm gonna add a little ribbon that kind of comes into the corner that really frames the ring trio, or I'm going to add petals. Flowers are great to get some texture and bring that forward. Any other textures that might be in their details, a veil, or maybe a texture on shoes, like if they have pearls on or like beading on the shoes, that might be something awesome that you can just bring in the corners or bring in the lower part of your ring shot to add some foreground and really make the ring pop. Next, watch out for reflections. This is something that will really get you, especially when you're really paying attention to a ring trio, making sure that it's clean. Really take a look at it, take a few sample photos and see if maybe it picked up a little of a sweater of someone or some just like tiny textiles that it picked up on the prongs. Make sure that you get it clean. That's a given. But once it's really clean, it's gonna pick up a lot of reflections. And so really pay attention to when you're photographing the rings, how can you get yourself out of it? Otherwise, you're creating work for yourself in the future of having to edit yourself out of it. If grooms have a band that's kind of solid all around, that will really pick up a lot of reflections. And so you wanna just make sure that you're getting out of it. Just pay attention to it. It's easy peasy once you realize that you're in it to get out of it. It's just more so reminding yourself, I need to get out of this or I'm going to show clear as day in this band or in this stone. And finally, sometimes there are some really tricky sizes of rings that make trios really hard to position. So for example, something that we love to do is position an engagement ring inside a groom's band or something, a thicker, a heavier band, straight up and down. So they're like at 90 degrees from each other, like this, so like this. Two bands like that, and I'm going to show you that in the tutorial. When you're doing that, sometimes the sizes just do not work together. Actually, that's pretty often, to be honest, that the sizes of the rings and the sizes of the bands don't just fit against each other. So what we will do is we will take braces wax. Do you remember braces wax? It's a wax that the orthodontist would give you to put like on the brackets of your braces when they're rubbing against the inside of your lips. I had so much of that. I just feel like my braces were always rubbing on the inside of my lips. But we bought braces wax just from Amazon. It's so affordable. It's literally like $2. We're gonna link it down below. And that braces wax, you can just put a little bit of it on your surface or on your invitation suite or whatever paper good, and then you can stick your ring right to there. It will literally have rings sticking straight up and down. And then with that, either you can do a piece that's small enough that it's totally hidden, or you can cover it with something. So it is clear. So in most cases, it's pretty hidden, but you can just like put a ribbon through there. You can put a little greenery on there just to cover it a little bit. And depending on how heavy the ring is, in most cases, again, it is pretty hidden. So we have our full detail styling kit. So everything that we bring along to weddings in a YouTube video, and I'm gonna pop that up above for you so you can watch it. You can see any other hacks we have like that. But braces wax is so handy for positioning rings, propping them up, getting them to lay the way that you want them to lay. Pro tip, we also use it for invitation suites to stick envelopes closed. So especially envelopes that might have envelope liners in them. And for one shot, we want them closed. For the next shot, we want them open to show the envelope liner. Instead of having to worry about, oh, okay, we gotta do this first, then we're gonna lick it, we're gonna seal it, and then it's gonna be done for. We can just use braces wax. We can close it, we can open it, we can close it as many times as we want, and it keeps it completely closed. So that's really awesome. Plus, honestly, I don't like licking envelopes. I don't know about you. If you feel that way, let me know. I hate it. I just feel like it's so gross. So this allows us to not have to worry about that. Okay, so now let's talk about arrangements, and I'm going to show you the footage of me behind the scenes. So there are three main ways that we love to organize rings. Can you get more creative? Heck yes, please do. Go crazy. But these three ways are the basis that we'll typically start with. See if they work with this type of ring. See if it works with this type of invitation suite, with the details that you have, with the foreground that you can pull. So the first is an up and down stack, like I was talking about earlier. One ring is laying flat, and then the other one is at 90 degrees. The other two are at 90 degrees. It just has some pop. It has some dimension to it. The next is laying all three on top of each other. So maybe they're like resting off each other. Maybe they're stacked completely on top of each other. And then the final is all three not connected side by side. So again, those are the basics. I'm going to show you all of them in this video, and we're going to talk through how I'm getting them all to lay this way. Let's jump right in. Okay, y'all, here we are on site, and it is a dreary day at the Arboretum, and the sun is about to go down, but I'm going to show you what we're up to. So first things first, I'm going to do that 90-degree balance with both the engagement ring, the wedding band, and then the other wedding band, and you'll see you just gotta kind of play with it. So I tried to put the second wedding band underneath the big stone, and typically it'll kind of lock in that way, but you just play and play until you can get it to balance, or you use that braces wax. And ta-da, there is balance. I'm gonna be careful not to bump it, get out my camera, and I am using the Canon RF35 1.8 macro lens, and then I'm gonna adjust my focus points. I'm looking for those prongs, because obviously it's facing right towards me, and this is the final product right there. So let's move on to the second one. Now for the second layout, I am going to do where they are just all laying horizontally next to each other. So typically I like to do the engagement ring in the center. I think that makes the most sense with typically when it has a prominent stone. And then I'm paying careful attention to make sure they're in the same exact plane with each other. You'll see me adjust that, get that focus point right there. I really like it in the bottom third like that. But you want to make sure that they're all lining up with that front stone so that you have a little in focus of each of the bands, and ta-da, there is that one. Now you'll see that we're bringing a lot of warmth into those final photos because it is so dreary out. So for the final one, I am going to do that triple stack. And in this case, I'm doing it a little kind of off kilter, kind of jigger-jagger side to side to balance them out. And I think it looks really fun and really engaging. And then I'm just focusing on that engagement ring, making sure that they're all for it, and there is that final product. Okay, what did you think? Did you like being live on location with me? I think that's so fun. Comment down below if you like that, and we can do some more videos like that. Be sure to also subscribe and like this video if you found it helpful. And until next time, bye!